We've now made it into the final quarter of this countdown of the Super Bowl era's most disappointing teams. We last saw the 2024 San Francisco 49ers at number 9, and now we are rewinding to the early days of the Super Bowl era. But before we do that, we're gonna quickly talk about C-Score. C-Score is a metric created by this channel to evaluate each and every team of the Super Bowl era instead of just looking at its record. For a deeper explanation about how C-Score works, be sure to check out the description of this video. To make this list, a team must have done the following. They begin a 3-year stretch with a positive C-score. They follow that up with an elevated C-score that is higher than 15. The follow-up to that is a season with a negative C-score, with this third season serving as the disappointment. The larger the drop from season 2 to season 3, the higher that disappointment will rank. 4 years earlier, they put together one of the greatest seasons the NFL had ever seen. 2 years earlier, they were Super Bowl champions. Now, in 1972, the Baltimore Colts were mired in disappointment, taking our number 8 spot. Thank you for joining us today. You know the drill. Please like, share, subscribe, and ding that notification bell. It truly helps out the channel. We are ready to start. As just mentioned, the Baltimore Colts were Super Bowl champions in 1970. They were the single worst Super Bowl champion until the New York Giants came along in the 21st century, but hey, they hoisted the trophy at the end. Their C-score is 10.698. On the surface, even without considering their championship, things don't look too bad here. At 11-2-1, they had the AFC's best record, and would have been the number 1 seed had a seeding system been used back then. The problem was the AFC itself. With the merger now in place, the conference was made up of all 10 AFL teams, many of whom struggled this season to adjust to the enhanced competition. There was also the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were terrible in 1969, along with the Cleveland Browns and the Colts. The Colts wound up playing the league's second easiest schedule, but that's not the whole story. They played the third easiest schedule of the entire Super Bowl era. That gave them essentially free passage into the Super Bowl through the AFC, where they would meet the Dallas Cowboys, themselves nowhere near the heights they were achieving in previous seasons. And in maybe the worst Super Bowl ever played, sloppy play, poor special teams play, 14 accepted penalties, 11 turnovers, the Colts won on a last-second field goal despite having committed 7 of those turnovers themselves. With nowhere near the team they had just 2 seasons earlier, and with a rookie head coach, the Baltimore Colts were Super Bowl champions, the first such champions of what would now be known as the post-merger era. It is kind of hard to move up from here. But sometimes it's not too hard to find yourself with a better football team, and that's exactly what the Colts were in 1971. Their schedule and their performance got dramatically better, and they still managed an excellent 10-4 record. But C-Score will let you know how much better they really were with that score of 26.773. It's not to say that the old AFL had completely caught up with the NFL in 1971, but things had gotten a lot better. With that additional competition came greater challenges for the 71 Colts, and they were up to the task. They did suffer 4 losses on the season. The first 3 came against the Browns, Vikings, and Dolphins, all winning teams who made it to the playoffs. And all 3 of those losses were by a single possession for a total of just 11 points. Coming off a 14-3 victory over the Dolphins in their return match, the Colts sat at 10-3, having replaced Miami atop the AFC East, and sat poised, ready to win it for the second straight season. All they needed to do was defeat the 5-8 New England Patriots at home, and the crown was theirs. They played fine in that game, but they allowed a touchdown on a pick 6, and then on an 88-yard catch and run from Randy Vahada. The Dolphins beat the Packers, and the Colts took the shocking upset loss, having been favored by 14.5 points. Miami reclaimed the division lead, relegating Baltimore to a wildcard spot. Now, there wasn't playoff seeding in 1971, but the wildcard team was always on the road. That didn't affect them in the divisional round, going to Cleveland and getting them back for their earlier loss in a breezy 20-3 victory. That set up the third and final showdown between the Colts and the Dolphins in the AFC Championship game. Miami's defense dominated, leading to a 21-0 victory and denying the Colts a second consecutive trip to the Super Bowl. As disappointing as that was, Baltimore had every reason to believe it to be a simple setback. Miami was still in their division, and they would be facing a tough road in that regard, but they had the talent and the experience to make another run at it. All they needed was some roster fortifications, and 1972 could very well be their year. Well, they wouldn't be on this list if that happened, now would they? The schedule did get harder, but they still dropped from second in the league in points allowed to 11th, and perhaps more distressingly, they dropped from 5th in points scored, all the way down to 20th. That added up to a lowly 5-9 record and a negative 17 point differential, a 190 point drop from the season before. Bad times all around for these Colts, with their C-score sitting at negative 6.912. Let's start off by talking about the Colts on the field. They were an aging team personified by the legendary Johnny Unitas at quarterback. No longer the great player he once was, Johnny U was benched. That did not result in any improvement. Baltimore suffered consecutive home shutout losses. The first to the Dallas Cowboys, the team Baltimore beat to win Super Bowl V, and the second was to the Miami Dolphins on their way to an undefeated season. Thank goodness for the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots, the two teams who actually finished below the Colts in the AFC East standings. Baltimore got 4 of their 5 wins on the season from them, and after once again being shut out by the Dolphins in Week 14, this nightmare of a season was finally over. That was on the field. Now we look at off the field, and this involves a name that is none too popular in the Baltimore area, Robert Irsay. Making a very long story very short, Irsay became the owner of the LA Rams for about 4 seconds, then in the rarest of rarities, swapped ownership with Carroll Rosenblum of the Colts. That made Rosenblum the Rams owner and Irsay the Colts owner. The Irsay reign in Baltimore through March of 1984 was certainly a rocky one, and it all started right here. Irsay brought along Joe Thomas as general manager, and that's where a lot of the fireworks started. Friction between Thomas and head coach Don McCafferty led to McCafferty's firing after a 1-4 start. He is still the only rookie head coach to ever win the Super Bowl, and had the Colts in the Final Four in both of his full seasons. Despite that success, no one was confusing McCafferty for his predecessor, Don Shula, now leading the Miami Dolphins to unimaginable heights. With McCafferty out of the way, Thomas was basically running the show through interim head coach John Sandusky. Remember the Unitas benching we just mentioned? That just so happened to coincide with the change at head coach. He never started another game in a Colts uniform again, throwing just 4 passes off the bench the rest of the way, one of which was a 63-yard touchdown. A youth movement was the right thing for this franchise, but it was handled so poorly that the whole thing teetered on the verge of sadness. 5-9 was a flattering record for this team given how weak the AFC East was outside of the Dolphins. They did not go out in a blaze of glory this season. They did not burn out. They simply faded away. This is the last we have seen of this page. We now turn it one last time where we will find the absolutely most disappointing teams of the Super Bowl era. The 1972 Baltimore Colts will start us off right here at number 8 with their disappointment score of -33.685. And these scores are continuing to climb, as we will see with our number 7 entry. Be sure to join us for the release of that video to find out who it's gonna be. The miracle on 33rd Street gave the Baltimore Colts some life between the 1975 and 1977 seasons, making the playoffs each year, but also going one and done each time. As it turns out, that 1971 divisional round win over the Browns was their last ever playoff win as the Baltimore Colts, and their 1970 AFC Championship game victory was their last ever in Baltimore, not counting the 2006 playoffs against the Ravens, of course. Until their move to Indianapolis, and to a large extent even beyond that, the Colts franchise was a shambles, and it all started right here in 1972. Let me know your thoughts about this Colts team, this era of Colts football, anything Colts related, or anything else you may have on your mind, right down there in the comments section. Here's hoping you're as excited for the rest of this countdown as I am. Thank you once again for taking some time to join us today, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.